Gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise today in opposition to H.R. 6, the American Dream and Promise Act of 2019. Last week, I went to El Paso to see what was going on our southern border. I can tell my colleagues today that our border is an utter disaster. Last month, Customs and Border Protection apprehended an average of 4,500 people every day. During the first 7 months of the fiscal year, CBP has apprehended more individuals than in any full fiscal year since 2009. While I was in El Paso, a single group of more than 1,000 aliens illegally walked across the border from Juarez. A group of migrants the size of a high school strolled right into downtown El Paso and surrendered to Border Patrol. I personally witnessed hundreds of others in smaller groups do the same thing. The number of family unit members and unaccompanied alien minors apprehended in April set records, and May's numbers eclipsed those records. The number of single adult apprehensions has now reached a 5-year high. So far this year, Border Patrol has encountered over 180 large groups, those with over 100 people. With so many people entering illegally, it is no wonder Border Patrol processing centers are far beyond capacities and ICE detention facilities are full. Even the NGOs providing shelter and other aid to migrants are completely overwhelmed by the unending surge of people who have learned we are rewarding those who break our laws and endangering vulnerable men, women, and children in the process. Perhaps the worst part of this humanitarian crisis is the toll it takes on children. CBP has identified over 3,000 potentially fraudulent family units arriving at the border. As unbelievable as it may sound, aliens admitted that they have borrowed, rented, or bought, yes, bought, a child because they know showing up with a child at the border all but guarantees release into the America's interior. It is a crisis. One of the overworked, overwhelmed agents that I met last week told me after I thanked him for doing his work and being there, he looked at me and he said, "I'm doing my job, now y'all go do yours." I took that to heart. I believe that the surge of migrants can be all but ended by enacting legislation to fix the Flores settlement, which the Obama administration agreed with me on, amended the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, and raised the credible fear standard of asylum. But what are my Democratic colleagues going to do to address this situation? Nothing. Democrats have the chance to help the overworked DHS heroes, overwhelmed NGOs, and the American people who believe in our country's sovereignty. Sadly, the Democrats are making us consider a bill that will worsen, give a green light to the border crisis, incentivizing more people to cross our borders illegally in hopes of getting a piece of the amnesty pie. No doubt, at this very minute, the smuggling cartels are getting the word out. Just as we heard from migrants walking across our border, is they were told it's open, that where there's availability to come across, they're telling them Congress is going to legalize millions. Just get there. They'll do it for you. I have repeatedly implored my committee chairman to give us a bill legalizing some of the illegal immigrant population and include enforcement measures to secure our border and enforce our laws inside our country. Sadly, they refuse. They had a chance to show that they are serious about immigration solution for DACA recipients and perhaps even for dreamers they have talked about protecting for years. Instead, today, we're considering a political messaging bill. The message is America won't enforce its laws or protect its people. H.R. 6 provides a special path to citizenship for millions of illegal immigrants, as well as hundreds of thousands of TPS and DED or deferred enforced departure recipients. It places the interest of those who have violated our law before those who have waited patiently for green cards to become available, because the bill provides the same path to some legal non-immigrants and even people living outside America, and the number of the potential beneficiaries is basically completely unknown. H.R. 6 allows criminal aliens and those who committed immigration fraud to receive green cards. It rewards the parents who knowingly brought children to the U.S. illegally with green cards and eventual citizenship. It incentivizes fraud through lax documentation, allowing affidavits to show compliance with some of those requirements and allowing people to withdraw an application at any time without prejudice. H.R. 6 pretends to prevent alien gang members from getting green cards, but the prohibition is so deliberately narrow it is virtually unworkable. H.R. 6 actually provides U.S. taxpayers funds to NGOs in the form of grant programs to help illegal aliens apply for green cards. And it has been said by my colleagues across the aisle, don't worry, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary will have the non-delegatable ability to review these. I'm not sure what my colleagues across the aisle believe the Secretary does all day except review these applications. It is the most amazing thought and statement I have ever heard. If enacted, H.R. 6 would overwhelm U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services to the point where adjudicators will be pulled off of processing legal immigration benefits to process the millions of applications resulting from this bill. There will be several million applications for amnesty because H.R. 6 has no consequence for filing a false or frivolous application. Hear me clearly. You could file a false or frivolous application and there's no consequence to it. CBO has estimated that over the 2020 to 2029 period, the two bills combined make H.R. 6 would cost $26.3 billion and $8.3 billion respectively, and that is frankly, I believe, is an underestimate. As evidenced by the 2-4 votes last year, Republicans want to provide legal status for DACA recipients. We want to do it the right way, to minimize fraud, to ensure criminals cannot get legal status, and to bolster border security. Without these common sense measures and compassionate measures, we will find ourselves repeating this conversation a few years from now. H.R. 6 does none of these things, so I would urge my colleagues to oppose this bill. With that, I reserve the balance of my time.